I look at AI as the human being that has every piece of knowledge
Right.
about that product in its head, and anything it learns or picks up along the way,
Right.
it keeps forever.
So, Patti, I really enjoyed having my friend Dave Fiegle back on the podcast. Been a couple of years, and it was so fascinating talking about all the ways that AI can revolutionize kind of that ISO payment, even ISV experience.
I was pretty astounded in his explanation of how realistic these bots are.
Yeah.
You know, the a couple of the anecdotes, which I won't spoil,
Right.
were pretty were pretty eye opening for me.
Yeah, and I think most importantly, just the whole idea of setting up a merchant, setting up a point of sale system, supporting tech support for point of sale system, all of that. We're about to see some huge innovation, and it's already here today. It's operational today with some things that can be done. And Dave, does a great job of talking about that. I end up following up that with kind of how my company is using AI and some of the things that we're doing.
Right.
We're not doing nearly what Dave is doing for sure. We have a lot. In fact, after the interview, I talked to Dave for a while about, man, we got to get ahead of this and do some additional things. So there's a lot of opportunity there. So you're going to want to, this is just I think this episode is probably going to be the most practical piece of content out there today, I think, for ISOs and agents.
I agree.
On what they need to actually do with AI to make more money, to save more time and things like that. And then Patti talked to us a little bit about the insiders today.
Yeah, buy now, pay later, we know has been going great guns, but regulators are now sitting up and taking notice, given how much money is being spent this way. And so that's what I'm reporting on, one regulator that's clamping down on these buy now, pay later. And of course, this episode, as always, is sponsored by Nativia. You can visit them at nativia.com. So
Awesome.
With that, James, what do you say we get into our episode?
Well, before we do that, I just want to say that the AI agency
Right.
and Dave Fiegle are not in any way consulting clients. We've done a lot of business together in the past, but they're not consulting clients, advertisers, or giving us kickbacks or anything like that. Just a fantastic interview with a great guy and a great company. So with that being said, yeah, let's dive in and do it. Hey, everybody. Patti and I are joined today by my good friend, Dave Fiegle. How you doing today, Dave?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Awesome,
man. Great day.
Yeah, so Dave and I kind of go way back to Dave's days at Retriever and Payrock and that focus. And Dave's been an industry veteran for a long time. And then now Dave is the co-founder and president of a company called the AI Agency. So they're working with helping businesses revolutionize their business with AI. And so I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to have a conversation about artificial intelligence, the way it's impacting the payment space. And then, of course, it turns out Dave is already working on several projects that directly relate to what ISOs and agents are doing from his experience and time in the industry. So, Dave, it's been a little while since you were on the podcast, I think over maybe even 2 years. So give our audience a little flavor of like your history in the payments industry and then kind of what led you to what you're doing today.
Okay, I jumped in the payments industry from the insurance industry in 2006, and I was just a door-to-door ISO agent. And over the course of time, I ended up growing a team, which, James, you were very familiar with, of about 75 or 80 salespeople, and had some success in the ISO world. I still, in fact, have a team of salespeople and partners with somebody that we do all our business through Payrock. But I've been in the payments space and industry as I guess an ISO manager, ISO owner, then into business development. And I've done a lot of different aspects of the payments industry. And now I'm working on tying AI into the payments industry.
I love it. So Dave, let's start by kind of, zooming out a little bit, right? So I think when we say AI, I think most people instantly think ChatGPT. That's kind of the most powerful, most popular kind of thing out there today. Easiest to use, maybe is the way to put it. But let's zoom out a little bit. When you think about, business today in general, what are the practical use cases that you're seeing? How are businesses being revolutionized by AI? And how do you see that kind of playing out over the next 12 to 36 months?
Well, I think the number one use probably for AI for most businesses across the country, small and large, is, document creation, content creation, marketing, really improving SEO. that type of thing is probably the most common, along with what everybody's familiar with, customer service use for chatbots, things like that. And then creating training and doing training, even as far as, interactive question and answer for new employees and employee intake, customer intake, client intake. Those are probably the three most common that you would be familiar with, and that most large businesses have been using for quite some time. Most small businesses have not, and they're really missing out. And that's kind of where we're filling a void, building custom solutions for small to middle-sized businesses. Right. We do have a few casinos which are larger, but most of our customers are the small to middle-sized business, like your ISO agent would typically probably be targeting.
Right.
So yeah, the customer service support and chatbots probably the most familiar, though. Most people are familiar with that. Everybody's called in and gotten the chatbot.
Yep. Right. So, or even, online. Hi, I'm your friendly chatbot. Like, well, absolutely. Okay. Right. Well, as we think about creating a merchant account, processing payments, moving money, sort of outside of that, how do you see AI disrupting our core processes in the short term as well as in the long term?
Well, I think in the short term, and I think what's currently being used by most of the ISOs and large processors in the country, number one would be, I think the first place they've used it is in fraud protection and fraud prevention, as well as just approval process, really streamlining and speeding up a lot of the things that used to be done by underwriting and risk is now done by AI and automated, and it's just streamlined things where approvals are instant now. And I think a lot of the companies have been doing that. Then obviously, like we just talked about, some of the ISOs and larger processors are finally using the chatbots, as well as interactive voice AI, which is one of the specialties at our company. We actually build, conversational AI bots that maybe you still have a large customer segment when they're dealing with their money is not comfortable putting information through a bot or through the website. They're going to call in. Well, we create customer service bots that are interactive, conversational, do everything and then some that a chatbot would do that you'd think of, typical on a website, but it actually answers the phone with a human voice. In fact, most of them now you can't really even tell they're a bot. It's really amazing what they've done with the voices. So
that really would be
cool. Those would be the two main uses, I think, where I think that's currently in use. And then in the future, it's really just going to streamline reps' ability and processors' ability to do approval and actually pre-approve customers so that they can go in and with very little information, just by business type, know, hey, this may not be a target for us because we won't get them approved. There's a lot of companies that are actually pre-analyzing leads.
Right.
So that's another big use for it.
It's funny, Dave, and the answer to this question may interest no one but me. I'm not sure, but because I've been really in the weeds on a lot of this stuff. But so with the voice AI, right, on like the customer service or sales side of it. So I was having this debate actually a couple of days ago with Sebastian Biles, is a good friend of mine from Arkham, and he was saying that, man, he thought the voice stuff was getting pretty good, like it was kind of ready for prime time. And I was like, man, I haven't found any that was, because there's so many API calls, behind the scenes that there's that delay and it's kind of clear. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is it getting to the point where, like, do you just have to let people know they're talking to an AI so that they kind of lower the bar a little bit? Or like, where is it actually at today with like voice customer support versus like a human?
The new voice AI is absolutely incredible, James. When we started testing it and building our own voices, through the use of some outside, providers. But we went and found some voices and then tailored them to customers. And we actually plugged one in at a pizza place not too long ago. And we had tested it with customers, and we had customers who were on the phone, usually older folks, talking to it about the weather, the local high school football game, to the point where we actually had to put, controls in.
Right, like go ahead and end the call, and when you get to like
because we charge by the minute, so we were really offended by it, but the customers were like, why does it take 15 minutes to order a pizza?
Right.
So it's really gotten great, James. I mean,
that's cool.
A lot of folks, and now a lot of the states require you to register and actually, tell the person, because technically every call is recorded.
Right.
Because that's how it responds.
Right.
And you get a transcript. So you have to notify, in most states and most jurisdictions, you have to notify the customer. But if they don't catch that in the beginning of the call, there's a lot of times the customer has no idea they're talking to a person. Yeah, customer are great.
Is that built off? Is that like the GPT 4.0, or is that like a whole separate like AI kind of thing for voice?
So we're using currently ChatGPT 4.0 Turbo, and then we use the I believe the other one is Claude that we use it, but we have redundancy so that when they go and do updates, our voices will just roll from LLM. Yeah, they'll just roll over.
That's really interesting. Okay, so this is really fascinating to me. I mean, we could have a very long conversation about this, but let's move on, because I want to talk about the menu build thing that you did with, I think mostly you started with Clover. I think tell us about what you were doing there, because these agents, I know a lot of the agents are going to love this idea. So tell us what you're doing there, and maybe any other industry projects you have going on.
Yeah, so I was looking for different ways to tie this into merchant service processing and provide services not only to our customer, but to our agents to help make their life easier. And I have one of the top sales, my partner's one of the top Clover agents in the whole country. And one of the things she was always complaining about was doing the data entry to create the CSV file for Clover, as well as the other POS systems. And in fact,
to do the menu build, right?
Yeah. The menu build. So when you take a menu build or any product, any kind of retail store, we created a product where the agent can now just snap a photo of anything. It could even be handwriting, any language, any menu, any list of items with modifiers. And within 30 seconds to 90 seconds, it'll create the CSV file in the format of the POS system that they need it for. Right now we have 6 or 8 different POSs, but we basically will just build one. They take us about an hour now to produce it. So if it's a POS, so if it's a POS with any kind of scale at all, we'll build it for the agent. So it's really saved them hours and hours and hours of time. And really, a lot of my agents don't like doing POS because of that.
Right.
And they're paying people to do the data entry for them, sometimes $500 to $1,000.
Right.
Now they can just take a picture of it, and it turns it right into the CSV file they need.
Wow, that's really cool. What are some of the, well, I guess let's clarify that one for a minute. So I know it does Clover. Are there any other ones you want to mention that it does right off the bat, or basically just, hey, if you have a point of sale system and you want to do it, reach out to you and you guys will figure it out?
Yeah, do that, because we have, approval from Clover for it. Some of the other POSs we don't. We've just built them one-offs and made sure the CSV file works. So we'll build almost anything that has any scale. I know we did one for Future, and Mike, I think, was one of the larger, older, antiquated POS systems. But we can do any format you need. We can get that done for you, and then you'll have access to it forever.
What about the modifiers? How does that work? As far as obviously still have to do some stuff, I guess, with that, right?
Well, that's the beauty of AI. When you order a cheeseburger, we just have it programmed. We tell AI what are the possible toppings. So when you go in and put it in, it's going to give you like the 10 most common.
Right.
And then you can just check them yes or no.
That's
so
great.
You just go in. So every item will have the modifiers already built in. And all you do is have to uncheck the ones you don't want. And then there's obviously a place where you can add them. But most of the menus, we got them covered because AI is pretty smart.
That's great. That's really cool. What are some of the other things? I know you have a lot of projects kind of in the works. Is there anything else you want to share as far as just projects maybe you already have or other things you're looking to have for the industry for ISOs and agents?
Well, so what comes along with the menu miner is you get a actual phone line that is a 24-hour tech support for whatever POS you're using. No hold times, so that when you, the agent, need tech support, you can call that number, or you give the number. What most of our agents are doing is giving that number to their customer and giving them 24-hour tech support with 0 hold times. And it's a conversational chat bot that they get.
That's actually pretty crazy. So is that, I mean, how good is it? Like, you know what I mean? For real. Like, you know, if you're like, let's say you escalated something at Clover and you were talking to like level 2 support, right? How does the chat bot compare to, say, Clover's level 2 support?
It got all the knowledge base that anybody could possibly have, because obviously it's AI.
Right.
I would say it's better than most, tier 2 tech support agents you get.
Sure.
The beauty of it is the customer is going to get instant response.
Right.
And it's going to troubleshoot with them. And it is very effective at troubleshooting because it is AI. I mean, people don't think about it this way, but I look at AI as it's the human being that has every piece of knowledge about that product in its head, and anything it learns or picks up along the way, it keeps forever.
Is it really good? One of the things I know a lot of people would wonder about is, like, is it good at kind of noticing, hey, I can't do this, right? So in other words, well, I have to be able to log into the system to do this, and I can't do that. And then say, hey, you know what? I actually can't help you. Like, is it good at handling that kind of like, okay, now I'm done?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, most companies that are using it, it's picking up about 75% to 80% of their customer service calls. And then it's kicking about 20% over. Some of them are privacy issues about recording. Some of them are just simply, our customers still want contact with them. And we have other ones that, quite frankly, just don't want to fire employees. But it's very good. I mean, all the customer service stuff, that's probably the number one use case for our chat bots and our voice bots. So it's great. But we're even doing some one-offs for people, some of these high-priced attorneys and people who get a lot of inbound incoming phone calls.
Right.
We set up a line so that it's a virtual gatekeeper for them.
Right. Sure.
It's pretty cool.
That is cool. That is cool. So, for companies that are still watching from the sidelines and they haven't really done anything with AI yet, but they do see the disruption is coming, right?
Yep.
What would you tell them? What would you advise them as to a logical first step to take?
Probably call a AI consulting company and have them do an analysis of their business, which doesn't take long. And it's amazing when you take a business, you can take a business website, copy and paste it, put it into AI, and it's going to give you 10 most common issues that a business is dealing with. And probably 8 of them are going to be in the top 10 for that customer. So they could even do it themselves, just go into ChatGPT and say, what are my major issues or problems in my business? But we usually, when we attack a business, because we also do consulting, that's what we do. We just do analysis of the business. Then we ask the customer, how many of these are relevant and what do you want to add to it? And whatever we can solve quickly, that's very cost effective for the customer, we just knock them out one by one. But I would say especially in this space, if you're an ISO or a processor and you're not using it for tech support, customer service, and teaching your agents how to use it to, before they walk into a business, now they should not only have the name of the owner, they should have his net worth, round credit score for them, and know what their kids' names are and every employee in the company, because you can use AI and it within a minute or two, you know all about that customer, and it blows people away when you walk in, and you don't want to scare them, but it blows them away when you know so much about their business, their headaches, their pain points.
Yeah,
so
in their mind, you just did a lot of research. You're well prepared, right? And so you don't go in and say, hey, I just spent the last 30 seconds, scouring AI, right? But it's like, wow, yeah, I did a lot of research on your company, and I feel like it's a great fit because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, where things that used to take you a half hour to do to have a good solid presentation, you can get in 30 seconds on the way in.
Right. Exactly. Wow, this is super interesting. Well, Dave, I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to reach out to you from our audience because they're going to want to make sure they have the menu miner, which again would save time, and then also understanding that comes with the trying out the tech support. I one thing I was thinking as you were saying it is, to me, a great first step would be, obviously most of our listeners are selling something like Clover or whatever, right? Is if you try out Menu Miner, I think it'd be really cool. When I was selling full-time, I would love to have had the support line for myself, right?
Yeah.
Like initially, just,
absolutely.
and that would be fantastic. And then I think once they try it for themselves, maybe they'll say, hey, you know what, this is at a level where I'm okay with my customers interacting with this particular AI, and and then they'd want to roll it out. So I think it's super interesting. So for those who want to learn more, especially about Menu Miner and the tech support stuff, where would you send them, Dave, to connect and learn more?
I would go to www.theaiagencyusa.com, or they could simply shoot me a text message or call me 219-677-2110. One thing I wanted to mention though, James, we have a great agent program. We're tying in a lot of the customer service stuff, and as well as taking inbound orders for restaurants, customer service. We're doing a lot of room service for hotels. But what I wanted to get at is we have a lot of our agents selling using the AI to lead in to sell credit card processing. We have an agent program with commissions that blow the commissions in bank card away.
Right. Sure. Yeah. So basically they can go in and say, hey, we leverage AI to overhaul your business. Let's talk about, what that could look like or whatever. And you have that process built out. And then of course they back into, one of the things we can also do is save you money on the payments or whatever, or, set you up with that.
We're obviously integrated into Payrock with a lot of our systems, but anything with an open AI, open API, we can integrate into.
Sure.
And we're replacing a lot of the high turnover positions for your mom and pop restaurants, auto service departments, things like that, where they have quite a bit of turnover. Appointment scheduling, we have a Appointment Genius. We have a bunch of different products that agents can sell. Even if they don't sell them, it'll help them differentiate themselves between the other bank card agents out there.
Right.
Because everybody knows when you walk into a customer and say, I'm here with the credit card processing company, the owner's running to the back. So
tougher sell.
We have our people using it as a differentiator. But if anybody's interested in the agent program, or just simply using Menu Miner, or you're an ISO out there who wants to learn about how we can help you out, just shoot me a text or give me a call.
Give us that number one more time, Dave. Yeah.
It's 219-677-2110.
Awesome. Dave, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I really appreciate it. It's great reconnecting with you on the podcast here as well. And I'm sure we'll be in touch. So thank you.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Patti.
This episode is brought to you by Nativia. A couple of things you can do to check them out. Head over to nativia.com. They were a full payment processing company. Obviously, they just had a big financing round that was announced. We're able to raise over $100 million in capital. And so they've been putting a lot of money into growth, a lot of money into improving, ISO relationships. One of the ways that, one of the things I think is so valuable, Patti, we've had Vlad on the podcast, obviously, many times. And He is such a great mentor to people in the industry that are building ISOs. It's so funny. Every time I'll talk to people so many times and they'll say, "Oh, I got in the industry and Vlad helped me get to the next level." And, and so for those that,
he's such a down to earth guy too. I mean, I see him at shows and he's just like,
he's not afraid to get his hands dirty and get in and actually help people and work with them in their business. And he's definitely not afraid to put the work in. So if you want to work with somebody who's passionate about it, who has the capital to back you up and you're scaling an ISO, let me encourage you to check out our sponsor. Again, head over to nativia.com, reach out to them, let them know what you're building and scaling and see if there's a way to work together. So thank you, Nativia, for being our sponsor. And now let's get back to the show. So Patti, I wanted to follow up that awesome interview with Dave. And I thought it'd be really cool to just talk about how our company is using AI right now and, my experience with it, So, first of all, one of the things I wanted to share is an interesting story. So in about, what was it, maybe a month and a half ago, I had this really interesting experience with AI that really kind of changed my perception a little bit. I was working on a very, very complicated deal, very large deal, and can't get into the details of it. But at any rate, there was a very complex business plan involved and a very complicated spreadsheet with multiple tabs and a projection, right? Like a 5-year projection. And I thought, I got done doing it, I did everything. And I just thought, I wonder how smart ChatGPT 4.0 really is now, So all I did is I just loaded in the business plan and the projection, like the actual Excel file and the Word document. And I said to ChatGPT, I said, do you understand these documents? Right. So loaded in and it spit out, a pretty nice, summary or whatever. And it was like, okay, that's cool. And then I said, then I started asking it questions where it had to be able to connect the projections, the actual numbers in the spreadsheet of the projection with the business plan. And I said things like, what parts of this business do you think could be improved? Or where do you see the issues? What's the biggest cash burn? What month is most concerning? Like very, very complicated questions. Even things like, hey, if I combined these two sources of revenue, right, what would my monthly, I mean, it was, and I would say, it maybe 80 to 85%, I would give it a score of in terms of its total understanding of this financial projection and this business plan, which is astounding to me. Like
astounding. Yeah.
It's really incredible. And so, it's just very, very helpful. So I want to talk about a few things that we're doing with AI, that we're using. So, as far as I guess I'll start with most common and then go to most valuable. So most common, of course, ChatGPT. I mean, if you're still searching for things on Google, you're probably wasting a lot of time and a lot of frustration for no reason. I almost never search anything on Google anymore. I use ChatGPT because it does the exact same thing, except it does it 50 times better. And you can also ask a lot of questions. So the issue is when you're searching for things on Google, right? You search, then you have to click on a bunch of websites to see what is the right bit of information. With ChatGPT, you tell it exactly. Your searches are like much longer because you say exactly what you're looking for. And then ChatGPT does the search and finds the exact website you're looking for or the exact piece of information that you want. Now I always caution people with this kind of stuff because you do have to I think one of the big skills today is you got to get good at talking to AI, meaning, you need to say things like, I'm looking for a real hotel in this country, otherwise it might make up a fake hotel that meets your criteria. So there's a few problems with that, but I think those problems have been overblown. I mean, they do happen, but generally speaking, it's pretty good. What I find is if you're looking for the answer to a question, I'll give you a good example. I was doing a little research on a new connection of mine recently with ChatGPT. And I said, hey, what companies does this guy own? Right. And it gave me like 3 companies. And he did own all 3 of them. And there was a link. He was the lead investor on all 3 of them. And there was a link. Right. And then I said, give me another company that this guy owns. Is there another one? Well, then it served up another one. Well, he actually wasn't an investor in that one. And so ChatGPT was like, oh, you're saying I have to find another company like one of these. Well, I'll do my best. And they found they found a company that he would be likely to be an investor in, but he wasn't.
Right.
Right.
But it wasn't. Yeah.
So you have to be careful if you're asking ChatGPT a question to which there actually is no logical answer, it may come up with an illogical one. So there's some things there, but I do use that a lot. So I think that's really crucial. As far as other business use cases, we are using AI now for training. And so anything where an employee needs to have a conversation with somebody that's training them, we either already have or we are working on building out training for that so that they can, get that. And I find that's a really good use. I was talking again to Dave about that there, but the voice AI stuff, even the not very good voice AI, is fine to train your employees because you can train it, you can preload it. This is what you say, this is what they should say, and then grade it. And, so there's really good tools for that. And again, I'll leave it to, I have some that I use. You could talk to Dave Fiegle, we just talked to, and get his advice on it. So, you have different options there, but, training has been a really, really big use case for us. Right. And so then the other things that we're working on with the AI stuff is just trying to include it in more of our business decisions. And the way I tell people is I say right now, ChatGPT is coming up with the best ideas in our business. Right. And it's also helping me to hone in on my own ideas. So as I'm working on things, I'm usually, if I'm in a meeting and we're talking about, hey, we need a new slogan or we need a new brand messaging for this particular business type, right? Someone in the room, if not me, usually several of us have ChatGPT up either on our laptop or on our phone. And we're saying, hey, here's the situation, right? So what I will tell you when it gets to into business decisions is just remember, it's only going to be as good as the information that you provide it, right? Or the information that's readily available to it. So, give it as much information as possible. And that's the thing I love about it is you can't overwhelm, ChatGPT with too much information. Just paste the whole, you know what I mean? If I'm working on something, and one of the most common things I'll do is let's say I'm trying to work on a business idea that involves 3 different companies. I'll just paste in the website URL for each company one at a time. And I'll say, hey, make sure you understand this company. And then ChatGPT will say, give me a summary, this is what this company is about. And I do another one. And then I say, make sure you have my company, CC Sales Pro, and you understand that. Okay, great. And then here's my financial situation relative to this or whatever. And then I'll say, here's what I'm working on. I'm working on this that's going to involve this company, this company, this company. Da, da, da. Do you understand this? I always ask, and it's like, okay, it understands. And I'll say, all right, give me 5 ways that I can improve this deal or 5 things I should be thinking about. And it is shockingly good.
Wow.
It's shockingly good. If you give it all that much information, it almost inevitably will give me one thing that I did not think of. And it's like, oh, wow. Okay. I did not even think about that. Okay, wait a minute, I could restructure this or I could do it a different way. So very powerful in business decisions. But again, not just tell me what I should do better, give it really specific information and then ask really specific questions. And one last tip I'll give you, and then I'll be done pontificating on this. I can talk about it for a long time. Is I will give you a little tip. Always ask for a list of things if it makes sense, because usually if you say to ChatGPT, what should I do here? You may or may not get a good answer back. If you say, give me 10 possible things I could do in this scenario, probably one of the 10 is going to be amazing and, really get you thinking in a different direction. And so you can include it in that way, but it's very good. I mean, I think as a general rule, when I go to use ChatGPT and I'm thinking, I wonder if it's going to be good at this, the answer is almost always yes. Or if it's something where I thought, it's probably not. A good example of this. Patti, this is funny. The other day, I could have put one of these times I need to do a segment where I talk to ChatGPT as my questions for the field.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Right. But it was crazy the other day. I was trying to explain to one of my employees how bin sponsors work. And they were like, what? So wait, what is it? It's a bank identification number, but that's for a credit card. And it's well, no, for a portfolio. And, there's a wholesale ISO, and I was trying to, and I was like, this is not going very well. I'm not explaining it very well, So I go into ChatGPT and I thought to myself, well, this is something, I don't even know how much public information there is about this. This is very much industry specific stuff. So I went in and just asked a bunch of questions to ChatGPT, and it explained it beautifully. I mean, understood exactly how it all works. It was insane how good it was. Understanding high risk and wholesale ISO concepts and, what is a full service provider versus a PayFac. I mean, all of it, understood it perfectly. I was just amazed. And so I got done. I had this huge long thing, this conversation took me maybe 5 minutes, if that. And it would have taken me 3 hours to create it. And it took me 5 minutes. And then I just copied the link, sent it to the employee and said, read this and let me know if you have questions when you're done. And that was it. I moved on to my next task, you know? So yes, hopefully you guys are all using AI, but I just wanted to throw that out there because I do think there's this kind of revolution going on with AI, and in our industry right now, there's maybe not as much conversation about it as there should be. So there's a lot of practical applications that are here today, and we really want to start using them.
And just if I can throw in an example, I came across a solution provider that is training AI engines, okay, in various things. Okay, I've just been toying with it because I want to, like, you know, I just wanted to see how can we get these engines to be more responsive, right? And one of the tasks that they're on right now is you ask the bot a question and it gives you 3 different answers, and then you rate the answers as to how they track back to the question.
Interesting.
And in fact, I decided I'm gonna, you know, I kind of like, it's on my radar. Every once in a while, they'll say, "Hey, this is what we're doing now," and some of them might just say, "Nah, I'm not interested." But that's one that I'm very interested in trying, because it really goes along with what you're saying here. Clearly, you know, these AI, you know, providers are really trying to hone down the answers and come up with the most logical questions, you know, the broad berth of questions. So
absolutely. Good stuff. So be using AI out there and let us know how it's going.
James, I wanted to touch today on buy now, pay later. We've talked a lot about this. But something came across my desk just recently that just kind of, you know, made me sit up and take notice. The Maryland Office of Financial Regulation has taken a buy now, pay later company to task. It's called FOUR Technologies, FOUR Technologies. Not totally familiar with it, but apparently the regulator said that this company was making loans to Maryland consumers without a proper license. And it was fined $45,000, and it was required to refund more than $184,000 to just under 2,500 Maryland consumers.
Wow.
You know, as I said, they believe under Maryland law, and Maryland law, you know, I did some research. It's kind of complex. You know, every state bank regulatory agency is a little bit different. In Maryland, the bank regulatory, this comes under the Department of Labor, which I don't quite understand how that all fits in, but still, you know, they think that, you know, they've decided that BNPL is a loan under Maryland law, and companies licensed offering it must be licensed as lenders by the state.
Interesting.
So when that happened, Zip, which of course is one of the big, it's an Australian-based company, BNPL company that has made inroads here, immediately pulled out of the Maryland market until it could get its license, because it certainly didn't want to be, you know, being such a large player, it didn't want to be stuck, you know, paying millions of dollars, presumably, right? So, you know, we've been talking in the past. Buy now, pay later has been going great guns in the U.S. Generally. Different research that I've come across says it's growing at a compound annual rate of close to 25%. Back in May, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau issued an interpretive ruling that confirms that these firms are lending and thus must provide consumers with the same rights and protections as credit card companies. This includes the right to dispute charges and demand refunds when a product is returned, and the companies need to provide detailed periodic billing statements. You know, a market analysis conducted by CFPB revealed that more than 13% of buy now, pay later transactions involve returns or disputes. In 2021, the agency said consumers disputed or returned $1.8 billion in transactions just at the 5 largest buy now, pay later firms, that being Affirm, Afterpay, Klarna, PayPal, and Zip.
Right.
Now, just a few more stats I wanted to share with our folks here. According to the FIS Global Payments Report for 2023, buy now, pay later accounted for 5% of global e-commerce transaction volume in 2022. And while the most popular use for buy now, pay later is online sales, it can also be used at brick and mortar locations. And, there are, and this is the thing that really, kind of drove this home to me. Because, we've talked about some of the smaller buy now, pay later companies that are partnering with ISOs or that ISOs can partner with. There's more than 200 buy now, pay later companies around the globe right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It really is. I mean, so that when it gets that big, the regulators are going to take notice. And
right,
so,
of course.
Just as an aside, if you're thinking about, getting into the buy now, pay later game and offering it to your merchants, make sure that who you're working with is properly licensed.
Yeah, for sure.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Good stuff. I know it's such a big opportunity. Hopefully the ISOs are taking notice and making sure that they have BNPL options, and making sure that their partners are properly licensed and they're not getting themselves into trouble. So good stuff, Patti,
Yeah,
as always.
exactly.
Thanks for sharing.